About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out.
Is it showing anyone as being off?
I'm done living life with the lights out.
Can't hear you. Don't bother. Numbers one. Hi there, and welcome to our first GCSE History live stream of 2022, and our first one looking at early Elizabethan England. We did a number of sessions on Germany last term, and if that's a topic that you're doing and you didn't see any of those, they're all still available to watch on YouTube or at tutor2u.net/live. So please do have a look at those. I'm joined today, as ever, by Rocky. Hi, Rocky.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Nervous anticipation at the first Elizabeth session.
Absolutely. We're looking at problems that faced Elizabeth on her accession to the throne in 1558. So shall we get cracking straight away?
Yeah.
And get onto the first activity. Okay, do you want to tell us a bit about this one?
Yeah, right. Evening, everyone. Hope you're well. What was it? 25th of January, but Happy New Year, even though it's belated. So you're going to be given or shown 5 words, each word in turn. Now, they relate to problems that Elizabeth had when she exceeded the throne. The only difference is with these words is that the vowels have been messed around. So basically, you'll be shown a word, and then based on the altered vowels or the different vowels that have been put in place, you need to guess what that word is. So as I say, 5 words in turn. Each word relates to a problem that Elizabeth faced when she exceeded the throne. Okay, so the first one is legitimacy. What do we think that one could be? One of the main problems that Elizabeth faced. If we move the vowels around, what could it be? Legitimacy. was interesting because I said it differently the second time, and I feel like I may have given it away, even though I felt like I used the same vowels. Um,
It did
any
sound more
clue?
like the actual word.
Okay, so a couple of ideas.
Yeah.
Um, right, should we have a quick look?
Yeah, let's have a look.
There we go. Legitimacy. Brilliant. So the idea that, well, particularly English Catholics did not recognise Elizabeth as a legitimate queen. There are reasons for that, which we will look at a little bit later. But so we will revisit these problems. So legitimacy is another one. Is one main problem. Another one is Muriugi.
Oh, very good. I always
Thank you very
enjoy
much.
the attempts to
Yeah.
pronounce these.
I'm
Moriyuki.
impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressing myself here. So Muriugi, if we was to switch those vowels or change those vowels around, what do you think would be identified? Another key problem that faced Elizabeth when she exceeded the throne.
For some reason, that one feels harder than legitimacy. I don't know why. It's,
Yeah, different. I think a range of vowels there is what does
yeah.
it. Um, so if you think for the viewers at home, what would a monarch, man or woman, what would they look for which might strengthen their position? It certainly wouldn't be a Muriugi, but what would it be? Okay, again, a couple of ideas. This is good. Marriage, superb. So obviously we know Elizabeth never marries, known as the Virgin Queen. But this is seen as a problem because, well, it ties into the third word, so I should stop talking really. But the idea of a marriage is that it forms a good alliance. It strengthens your position
I think
on
you
the
might have to be
throne.
careful. Might have to be
Yeah,
careful how you pronounce this one.
that's right. And it potentially can give you something else. So the third word, the third problem. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce this. Hoar. Let's try
Yeah.
that one. A hoar. What could a hoar be? Tied in with the previous word of marriage. You can't get a bigger clue than that.
Yeah, I think a couple of people have got this one.
Yeah.
Shall we see?
Let's have a look. That's it. Heir. So we need an heir to the throne. So obviously, without an heir, there's essentially a power vacuum. The succession is in doubt. And this is where, don't worry, she is a problem, but she's not one of the words that we're after. This is where Mary, Queen of Scots, comes in because she is the next legitimate heir to the throne. But without a marriage, without an heir to the throne, there is a little bit of a power vacuum there, especially because so many English Catholics question Elizabeth's legitimacy. Great. Next one. Lovely. A doot. What's a
Trumpet.
doot?
Adopt.
Yeah, a dut. There you go.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Sounds like something Scottish to me.
Yeah.
Is it something to do with Mary?
Yeah. Or maybe slightly Canadian. What do they normally say? A boot or a butt? A dut. Well, there's only one vowel to change here, so this one should be pretty easy. It's a problem that Elizabeth faces. I'm sure. There we go. Debts. I was about to say, I'm sure none of you are in this from all your Christmas money and all your presents from December. I'm still in post-Christmas mode, and we're a month into the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Last one then. So, Roluguin. I'll have to try that one again. I didn't do it justice, Duncan.
No.
Roluguin. What do we think that is? What problem could this be? It's one major problem that I've not mentioned, although I did sort of hint at it in relation to legitimacy.
Sounds like an exotic animal. A rulugwin. I don't know
Yeah,
what it would be. Like a cross between a penguin and a. I don't know. Yeah.
so very good. Yeah, Roluguin or Roluguin. What do we think it is? There are two denominations of Christianity within England, and it links to this
Oh,
word.
you've definitely given it away there, haven't
I
you?
know, it's going to get easier than that. So it's obviously religion. So clearly, Elizabeth is Protestant. The English Catholics don't necessarily recognise her as legitimate queen. Elizabeth as well was just replaced Mary the First, her half sister. Mary the First died. She was Catholic. So this is another problem that Elizabeth faces. There we are.
Okay, so we've got what we call a conveyor belt quiz now. So what will happen is that 6 questions will come flying past on the conveyor belt while some music plays. And your job is to try and answer those questions. So if you can type your answers into the chat window as they come past, I think it'll be obvious which question you're answering, but if you can sort of number it or something, do so. Good luck. Let's see how you do. Okay, so there are a few right answers are spotted there, but well done. We're going to review the answers now anyway, so if you weren't sure about some of those, we'll go through it now. I think Rocky did reveal the answers to a couple of them during the first activity, so if you're paying attention. Well, it's good to reinforcement, that's what we want. So, okay, let's have a look. So the first question was, why did some people see Elizabeth as illegitimate, and English Catholics in particular? So her mother was Anne Boleyn, which was Henry's second wife, and Henry declared Elizabeth illegitimate when he beheaded Anne in 1536. Gosh.
Yeah. He does actually reverse that decision, although if you're an English Catholic, you're going to conveniently ignore that bit. But yeah, so the idea of Anne Boleyn obviously being the second wife, it took a divorce from Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish Catholic princess. And therefore, obviously, English Catholics were angry about that as well because the Pope didn't actually recognise the divorce.
Yes, and I suppose that's the point from an English Catholic perspective, is that divorce wasn't something that was allowed, and so they didn't see the second marriage as being a legitimate marriage. He was still married to the first wife under the eyes of the Catholic Church, I guess.
Absolutely.
Why was there pressure to marry and have an heir to the throne? To create stability, to avoid there being any sort of power vacuum. Yep, okay. Which links to the next one as well, doesn't it? Which was who was next in line to the throne, which, if you were listening carefully, Rocky did reveal that one. It was Mary, Queen of Scots. More on her later, I'm sure. How much was Elizabeth in debt upon acceding to the throne? £300,000. Now, can we put that into any sort of context, Rocky? Because I'm assuming that would be different from you or I being in debt by £300,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to put it into perspective, so the amount of money annually that Elizabeth would enjoy from sort of crown lands and things like that would be around £287,000. So clearly, the idea of her taking all of that annual income and then saving it away for a rainy day wouldn't necessarily happen as a monarch. So we're looking at a good few years worth of annual income needed to deal with that debt. And obviously the equivalent now, I couldn't tell you for sure, but we are looking millions of pounds.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay. Um, who did Elizabeth succeed the throne from? So who was the previous monarch? And we revealed that it was a queen. It was Mary I, Elizabeth's half-sister, and she was a Catholic. And so this religious dispute sort of plays into that as well. Okay. And the last one. Which three countries were traditional rivals of England? And Elizabeth was wary of all three of them: France, Spain, and Scotland. Okay, and we're going to talk more about certainly two of those shortly as well. Possibly all three. I can't remember. If Spain comes up again today, certainly will do in future sessions. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Rocky now for an activity called Give Me Two. Or is this me? No, this one's me. I'm going to do Give Me Two, aren't I? And you're going to do the next one. Sorry about that. Okay. Sounded really slick then until I remembered I'm doing it. Okay, so we're going to ask you to come up with two things. And in this case, it's two features of the problems faced by Elizabeth upon acceding the throne. So we've just talked about a lot of these problems. Going to describe two features of the problems. So this is like a 4-mark question, so the sort of thing you might get on exam paper as a 4-mark question. Okay, so obviously you've only got a short time to come up with the two, so you won't probably won't have much time there and then to develop those two features particularly, but we'll just have a little go. So the clock's going to start now. Fortunately, Rocky brought his ukulele with him, so
That's it. I've been practicing.
and I've got my bongos. Yeah, just the 30 seconds of that one, so it goes pretty fast. But we had a couple of ideas there, certainly for identifying some of the problems. So let's have a look. So first up, got one feature, as we mentioned, was that Elizabeth was in debt. She inherited a debt of £300,000 from Mary I, and her royal annual income was £287,000. Okay, so the details that Rocky just gave us a moment or two before would go nicely into an answer to this question. And the other part was religion. Elizabeth was Protestant. This upset English Catholics who feared changes to religious rules and who saw her as illegitimate. Okay. So
I'm just going to say briefly, Duncan, if that's okay, that one of the reasons that we've got the feature in red and then a supporting detail is just because it shows you what the examiner's after. So you get 1 mark for the feature and then the second mark for the supporting detail. So clearly 4 marks, 4 sentences, but those sentences are very clear, very precise, especially with the supporting detail. So each of those features would be 2 out of 2 essentially. So then, 4 out of 4.
yeah, that's some really useful exam gold there. So yeah, that's really good to see how it's done. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rocky now with a new activity, which if you've been following us last term, you won't have seen this one before. It's the connection spinner.
Great. Yeah. So connection spinner. Basically, we have a 6 concerns, or potential concerns for Elizabeth, and the spinner is gonna land on one of these at random, and then you need to work out why, in particular, this issue was a concern. Now, in fact, all 6 of these are concerns for Elizabeth, but this obviously is testing your flexibility with the knowledge and how much knowledge you have regarding these particular topics. It's like a roulette wheel.
I was going to say it's like the Michael McIntyre show on a Saturday, but yeah. All right, we go.
Okay, Calais. So does anyone know the importance of Calais? This is a very, very subtle one. This is a very minor one. I mean, if you don't know this, it's really not the end of the world, to be honest. However, those little bits of detail can often set you apart from other candidates. I wouldn't be surprised if... Sorry?
I was just going to say, I think you might have stumped them. It's a bit quiet on the chat
Yeah.
window.
No problem if not. Okay, so we can go through this one. Now, this links back to when Mary the First was actually queen. So Mary the First, because she was married to Philip II, who was king of Spain, at the time Spain and France were at war. Calais, which was an English possession, was lost to France during that French-Spanish War in 1557. And then when Elizabeth accedes the throne, that the confirmation of the loss of Calais takes place in 1559. Now, the reason that's an issue is simply because it's almost like symptomatic or symbolic of the fact that Elizabeth is not getting off to the best start, even though this is not her fault. And as I say, is symbolic of the fact that she's going to have her foreign policy is going to be dictated by these types of issues, and she's going to be under a lot of pressure. So
Okay.
that is a tricky one. Okay, next. There's one more, I believe. We're not
Okay.
going through all six.
No. Let's hope it doesn't land on Calais again. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Geographical divisions. Now, this one is a bit easier and is very important. So this is definitely one that you should know. Relates to Elizabeth's problems. It also relates to her problems further down the line about sort of reinforcing her religious settlement, which we will look at soon also, although not this evening. What do we think? We're not after a really complicated answer here for geographical divisions. It's quite simplistic, so don't worry. Sometimes simplistic answers are the most important. Okay,
Should we have a look?
maybe this one stumped a few as well. So ultimately, with the geographical divisions, the north and the northwest, they are heavily Catholic, and the south and the southeast are heavily Protestant. So that makes the region difficult to control. Just got a comment from Rachel here. Yeah, you can write the answers in the chat. Absolutely. So geographical division. So ultimately, because the country is divided regionally and along religious lines, this makes it very difficult for Elizabeth. There we go.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, I think you're going to talk us through a 16-mark question now.
Go for a 16 marker. So we're going to try and put all of this together. So what we have here, obviously, we've been looking at problems. We've got the biggest problem facing Elizabeth upon her accession was the question of legitimacy. How far do you agree? Now, clearly, and don't worry, Rachel, you don't have to type up a 16 marker in this limited amount of time. You're absolutely fine. I'll just go through it. The stimulus points you've been given are Anne Boleyn and then the threat from France. Now, technically, with the 16 marker, you don't have to use these stimulus points. It always says you may use them. However, I always feel the stimulus points, they're helping you. So if you can create a paragraph around Anne Boleyn and a paragraph around the threat from France, and then another paragraph which links around to this statement, and you're going to be doing extremely well. Now, I always tell my students also, 16-mark question, you should look at 1.5 minutes per mark. So give yourself around 25 minutes for this. And then, as Duncan's put here on the slide, you need your introduction, one paragraph for each stimulus point, and then the third paragraph goes beyond the stimulus point. And then we finish it with a conclusion. So key thing with the introduction, we want to outline our judgment. So with our judgment, if the question is, what is the biggest problem facing Elizabeth? If you can establish criteria and show the examiner what you are judging or what you are using to judge this answer, then that will really help underpin your analysis, and it will give you a thread throughout the answer when you keep linking back, which again shows the examiner you know what you're talking about, you have the knowledge, you have the points, and you're able to support your judgment. So I've given as an example the criteria you could use here. The biggest problem was the one that was the largest threat to Elizabeth's ability to rule. So the one that was most threatening to her, the one that could potentially undermine her the most. And then that's up to you how you use it. Okay, so if we imagine this is a paragraph, we've gone for Anne Boleyn. Don't be afraid to set context and establish why Anne Boleyn's important, and show the examiner You know Anne Boleyn is the second wife of Henry VIII. You know that English Catholics don't recognise Anne Boleyn, and therefore they don't recognise Elizabeth as a legitimate heir. Like you said, Duncan, it's because Catholics don't recognise divorce, and the Pope didn't recognise the divorce between Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII. And then what's really important, if you look at the bottom of this slide, where I've put this is a problem because this is your link back to the question. And this is why you are constantly shown to the examiner that you can analyse and revisit and say, this is why it is such a problem. And then for stimulus point 2, we've got the threat from France. Occasionally, stimulus points might be a little bit tricky. So the threat from France is quite generalized, but this is why you need to be clear about Elizabeth's problems concerning, not having an heir to the throne, not being married, and knowing that Mary, Queen of Scots, was the next in line. Mary, Queen of Scots, also at this point had just married or was about to marry Prince Francis, eventually becomes Francis II. I mean, that is a give me, isn't it? If you're trying to remember the Prince of France, his name's Francis. So again, little connections that help you remember these things will really help you in an exam. So the fact that Mary, Queen of Scots, has a powerful marriage alliance with France, and France and Scotland formed the Old Alliance. I call it in my class the England sandwich. So England is obviously worried about Scotland to the north and France on the south. The fact that Mary, Queen of Scots' power is reinforced by the Old Alliance and this marriage, coupled with the fact that Elizabeth has no heir to the throne or marriage in line, makes this potentially a very, very big problem and a big threat. And then lastly, to go beyond the stimulus points, just refer to what we've looked at already today, the geographical divisions, the debt, the loss of Calais. So this is just a way of showing to the examiner I can go beyond the stimulus points. I know lots about the topic and I can consistently link back to the question and explain that there are different problems facing Elizabeth at different times. And then lastly, go back to your criteria. So I've given, and this is not the answer, it's all about how you use your criteria. But as an example, I've said the question of legitimacy was the biggest problem because it was linked with religion, which divided the nation. Obviously, it's linked with religion because the Catholics don't recognise Elizabeth as legitimate. And then lastly, this meant that despite foreign policy concerns, the loyalty of Elizabeth's own subjects at home was of immediate importance. So then that again feeds back to the idea that the biggest problem is the one that is makes Elizabeth most under threat. And what I am saying here is that her immediate short-term concerns are what might potentially threaten her. So yeah, we've gone through that very quickly, but you can download these resources and then you can go through that plan and work on it and maybe have a go. Time yourself. Have a go at writing this answer in 25 minutes with this plan.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Rocky. That's brilliant. Just a quick reminder as well that we have got lots of study notes, activities, revision activities on the Tutor2U website. You can go there by, if you've got a smart device or whatever, scanning that QR code there. We do also have some resources. There's a brilliant exam buster on early Elizabethan England, written by Rocky. So I can say that's brilliant because I didn't write it. It's fantastic. It is really good. And we do have resources for some of the other topics as well. An example there, Weimar and Nazi Germany, that we were looking at last term. Rachel asks, are these sessions at the same time every Tuesday? They are indeed, certainly for the next few weeks. So keep an eye on that and do come and join us. And that's been a really good session. Loads of exam-focused content there, which is absolutely what we wanted to see. So thanks very much for that, Rocky. And yeah, some good interaction with some of the viewers there as well. And I'm sure, as is always the case, lots more people will watch this on catch up, and if you are watching it on catch up rather than having watched it live with us, hi to you as well. And I'll let you know too that we're here every Tuesday, and so you might join us live next time and join in with some of the activities. Trying to think if there's anything else we need to say before we sign off. One is, if you've enjoyed it, do click the thumbs up button, and then your other people doing this course it helps them find this course. It helps the YouTube algorithms. And what else can I say? Also, you can subscribe, and then you'll get notification of when we're next game live. There are other subjects that we do as 2-2 sessions, lots of A-level subjects, but also a number of other GCSE ones, GCSE Geography, GCSE Business, so do GCSE Sociology, so do keep an eye out on those if any of those are other subjects that you do. You could join us for those. Otherwise, thanks very much, Rocky. Thank you very much, those of you watching at home. We will see you next Tuesday for the next stage in our journey through early Elizabethan England. Okay, thanks guys. Cheerio.
Take care.